On Friday, the 1st of May, parts of Britain were hotter than Hawaii. Not warmer than usual, not a pleasant spring day, hotter. Then, Hawaii. The Met Office confirmed temperatures reached 27 degrees Celsius across parts of southern and eastern England, while Honolulu, the capital of the Hawaiian Islands and one of the most famously warm places on Earth, was sitting at just 26 degrees. That single fact tells you everything you need to know about the week that just happened and the bank holiday weekend that followed it. The heat was extraordinary. The contrast with what came next was brutal. And if you were one of the millions of people across the United Kingdom who had plans for the May bank holiday weekend, you were about to get a masterclass in exactly why British weather remains the most unpredictable, most discussed, and most frequently complained about weather system in the entire world. This is the full forecast breakdown, day by day, region by region, straight from the Met Office, and it is a story worth telling from the beginning. The setup for this bank holiday weekend began days earlier, when a plume of exceptionally warm, humid air started building northward from the south, tracking up across the European continent and delivering conditions that had almost nothing in common with a typical British late April. Met Office meteorologist Simon Partridge explained the mechanism in direct and accessible terms when he told reporters that the country had very warm, humid air coming up from the south, and that the best of the warmth and sunshine would be concentrated in the east and the southeast, because those areas would sit in the clearest and most direct path of that southerly flow. He paired that good news with an important caveat, one that would prove entirely and precisely correct as the weekend unfolded. Unfortunately, he said, that does not mean everybody is going to get a warm, dry, beautiful day. It was a forecast warning delivered with the kind of quiet and understated accuracy that the Met Office has built its reputation on, and it was the headline that not enough people absorbed before they committed their bank holiday plans to the assumption that the warmth would last. The broader meteorological context for the bank holiday also deserves a moment of attention because this was not a random warm spell materializing in a vacuum. Britain entered this long weekend having already recorded 26.6 degrees Celsius at London's Kew Gardens earlier in April, and with NOAA having formally issued an El Niño watch in early April 2026, signaling the active development of what multiple forecasters have described as potentially one of the strongest El Niño events in modern climate records. The very warm, humid southerly air mass that arrived over Britain in the final days of April was in part a product of the same large-scale atmospheric pattern that is currently being driven by those changing Pacific Ocean temperatures. Warm continental air sitting over Spain and France does not casually wander northward to reach 27 degrees in Lincolnshire. It arrives because the atmospheric setup that allows it to reach Britain is unusually favorable, and that favorability is becoming more common, not less, as the background temperature of the planet and the shift in Pacific dynamics both push in the same direction simultaneously. Friday the 1st of May delivered on its temperature promise with genuine and measurable force. The 27-degree readings across southern and eastern England made it one of the hottest days of the year to that point by a clear margin, and the comparison with Hawaii at 26 degrees was not editorial decoration. It was a factual meteorological observation that placed Friday's conditions in global context with complete accuracy. Southeastern England basked in the warmest and most prolonged sunshine of the day, with the southerly flow combining with clear skies to produce temperatures that felt genuinely more consistent with a Mediterranean early summer than anything Britain had any right to expect in the first week of May. For those in the right location with the right aspect, Friday was the kind of day that becomes the reference point for an entire season in collective memory. The one brilliant afternoon in May that people talk about in August when the country has gone gray again and everyone has forgotten what warmth feels like. But the warm air that produced Friday's exceptional readings was simultaneously carrying the seeds of everything that followed. High moisture content in a warm southerly flow does not remain stable indefinitely when it makes contact with the cooler and more turbulent systems approaching from the Atlantic. The energy it contains gets converted, and the conversion process is rarely subtle or polite in British airspace. Met Office Deputy Chief Forecaster Tom Crabtree spelled out the transition that was already beginning on Friday evening. He confirmed that by Friday, conditions were expected to become more unsettled, with rain and showers spreading in from the southwest, some of which he specifically described as potentially heavy and possibly thundery. That warning marked the turning point between the brief warmth of late April and the considerably more mixed character of the bank holiday weekend proper. The cloud and rain moving in from the southwest were the advance guard of a system that would define Saturday, Sunday, and Monday in very different ways for different parts of the country. Saturday, the 2nd of May, was, according to the Met Office, the best day of the 3-day bank holiday weekend for most people south of the Scottish border, and even that assessment came with substantial caveats that anyone who stepped outside in the wrong region at the wrong time discovered firsthand. The day began unsettled across many areas, with regions of rain and, in some places, early showery or thundery bursts that needed to clear eastwards before any meaningful improvement was possible. Met Office Chief Forecaster Dan Harris gave a detailed and region-by-region picture of how Saturday unfolded across the country. He explained that further showers developed through the morning, particularly across Scotland and Northern Ireland, where some could become locally heavy during the afternoon hours, affecting communities in the Highlands, the Central Belt, and across the Northern Ireland coastline with persistent and at times intense rainfall. Meanwhile, rain reached southern England during the morning, spreading northward into much of England and Wales later in the day, again heavy at times, with a small but real risk of thunderstorms that Harris specifically noted were most likely in the southeast, where the residual moisture and atmospheric instability from Friday's exceptional warmth and the incoming weather system from the southwest would be most concentrated and most energetically active. Away from the heaviest rain and showers, Harris confirmed that many southern and eastern areas would feel warm and rather humid through Saturday, a lingering echo of the remarkable conditions that Friday had delivered. That warmth was not universal, and it was not consistent, but for those who found themselves in a dry pocket between the showers, the combination of mild temperatures and occasional sunshine gave Saturday a character that felt salvageable despite the risks. Further north, temperatures stayed closer to the average, expected for early May, and conditions varied markedly through the day, depending on exact location, elevation, and the timing of shower development. That regional variation was one of the defining characteristics of the entire weekend. The difference between being in the Surrey Hills on Saturday afternoon and standing in the Scottish Highlands was not just a matter of a few degrees of temperature. It was the difference between intervals of genuinely warm sunshine and persistent, locally heavy downpours sweeping in off the Atlantic with little interruption. London and surrounding areas held onto highs of around 22 degrees on Saturday, a perfectly respectable figure for early May, but a sharp and unavoidable reminder of the 27 degrees that had felt so close just 24 hours earlier. For anyone planning a long walk, a picnic, a trip to the coast, or an outdoor event on Saturday, the morning offered the best practical window of opportunity across the whole weekend. The chance of rain was at its lowest before midday and climbed to around 40% from 5 in the afternoon into the evening, making the Saturday morning hours the genuine sweet spot of the entire bank holiday for outdoor activities across southern and central England. Sunday, the 3rd of May, delivered the dampest and most frustrating verdict of the entire bank holiday weekend. The forecast was considerably more overcast than Saturday from the very start of the day, with a 60% chance of rain throughout across many areas, and heavy bursts that the Met Office had flagged well in advance, proving entirely accurate as they materialized across parts of England and Wales. Rain was also possible across southern Scotland, and the persistent cloud cover that accompanied the wet conditions kept temperatures well below what Friday's peak had suggested might be possible across the bank holiday period as a whole. The chance of rain only retreated to around 30% by the late evening, meaning the window for genuinely dry conditions on Sunday was narrow and concentrated in the overnight hours, too late to salvage anything for the majority of people with daytime plans. Families who had planned barbecues, garden parties, outdoor walks, or trips to the coast were confronted with a day that left very little room for optimism or improvisation. Sunday was the bank holiday weekend's difficult middle chapter, the one that will not feature in anyone's fond highlights reel, but will be remembered vividly by anyone who got soaked trying to hold on to the promise of the Friday that preceded it. Bank holiday Monday, the 4th of May, completed the 3-day picture with what the Met Office described as changeable but gradually improving conditions. Deputy Chief Forecaster Mark Sidaway gave a measured and carefully worded assessment, confirming that Monday would remain changeable with lingering cloud and scattered showers across southern and central areas, but that these should be lighter and fewer in number than the showers that had dominated Saturday. And Sunday, which after everything that had come before it, represented a modest but genuine improvement for the millions of people who still had one day of the long weekend left to use. Farther north and into the northeast of England and Scotland, Sidaway confirmed it would feel noticeably fresher and cooler on Monday, with a few scattered showers and, in a detail that captures the full absurdity of a British bank holiday, the possibility of wintry showers over higher ground in the far northeast of the country. Wintry showers over Scottish peaks on Bank Holiday Monday, in the same week that southeastern England competed with Hawaii for the title of warmest location on the planet. That is not an editorial exaggeration. That is a direct, accurate summary of the meteorological range the United Kingdom experienced across 5 consecutive days in May 2026. Winds across most of the country were forecast to stay mostly light to moderate through Monday, though strengthening at times in the far northeast, where the colder and drier air mass from the north was having its most pronounced surface effect. Temperatures on Monday were described by the Met Office as close to average for the time of year across most areas, which, after the extraordinary readings of Friday, felt like the atmosphere politely closing the door on what had been a brief and spectacular glimpse of what a proper heat event looks like. Met Office meteorologist Simon Partridge, reflecting on the full arc of the weekend, put it as plainly as any forecaster could. By the time Britain got to Monday, he said, temperatures were going to be roughly where they should be for this time of year. That observation captures the full narrative of the May 2026 bank holiday weekend in a single sentence. It began with conditions that belonged somewhere closer to the Mediterranean than the Midlands. It ended with conditions that were entirely unremarkable for a British early May. Britain entered this bank holiday period having just come through one of the hottest April spells on record, with London's Kew Gardens recording 26.6 degrees Celsius earlier in the month, and with NOAA having confirmed in early April that an El Niño watch was now in place, signaling the development of what could become a super El Niño event in the Pacific. Met Office preliminary forecasts are already pointing toward temperatures running up to 1.5 degrees Celsius above the 1991 to 2020 average across the country this summer, with multiple heat wave episodes considered likely through June, July, and August. Jim Dale, meteorologist for British Weather Services, has stated publicly that another 40-degree day in the United Kingdom is entirely possible this summer if the right combination of southerly airflow and El Niño-driven continental heat aligns over Britain. Friday the 1st of May, with its 27-degree readings and its brief but genuine sense of exceptional warmth spreading across the southeast, was in many ways a preview of that possibility. It was the atmosphere serving up a demonstration of what is sitting in the pipeline for later in the season, delivered in concentrated form across a single remarkable day before the bank holiday proper pulled the rug out with 3 days of showers, cloud, and eventually wintry flurries in the Scottish Highlands. The full picture of the May 2026 bank holiday weekend is, in that context, a very British story. A Friday that felt like the Mediterranean. A Saturday that offered warm pockets between stubborn showers. A Sunday that tested everyone's patience with persistent rain and cloud. A Monday that brought the country back to normal temperatures and reminded anyone who had been briefly seduced by Friday that this is still Britain, still May, and still capable of producing wintry showers over high ground in the same week it competed with Hawaii for the title of warmest place on the planet. Follow the Met Office and sign up for weather alerts through their website and app to stay ahead of whatever comes next. Because if this bank holiday weekend told us anything, it is that the gap between extraordinary and ordinary British weather is getting shorter, and the transitions between them are getting sharper. Summer 2026 is still building. And based on everything the data is currently saying, the next time Britain gets its own version of Hawaii, it may not be a preview. It may be the main event